Acharya Shri Divine Grace of HG Radhanath Swami Maharaj ki Jai. So this Radhanath Swami Maharaj ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Om Kyantimidasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumiliyena Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My dear Lord, please guide us as we try to appreciate the guidance that you provide us through your representatives and through our spiritual masters.
It's not like that. It's not like that.
Hare Krishna. I'm grateful to be here with all of you today after almost 6-7 months now. And today I speak about appreciating His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. And the broad thing that I talk about is this one mission, many moods. We often use these terms, mood and mission, interchangeably. Actually, the two are not the same thing. So, Srila Prabhupada had one mission. That was to So Prabhupada had one mission to spread Krishna consciousness. And at different times he manifested different moods. And those moods manifested according to the particular place he was at, the particular kind of people he was interacting with. And we discussed how Prabhupada's focus was one thing when he was in America. He was a lot of books. In India, it was more built temples. So it was the mood and mission. You could say the mission is a more broader thing. And in advancing that mission, there can be different moods at different times. So we will be focusing today on how in the life of His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, there is that one mission of serving Srila Prabhupada, of spreading Krishna consciousness, and how that has manifested in different moods throughout his life. So, based on my small understanding, we will divide Maharaj's life into some phases. So, till 1971 approximately, that is described, well documented in Journey Home. That was more of him as a seeker. Then Prabhupada, and then several interactions with Prabhupada. Then he went to New Vrindaban. So 71, around 1772 till around 79, there was a phase when he was primarily a pujari. Then 79 to around 87, he was in North America, and there he was mainly doing youth outreach. He was going to various colleges and doing various programs, and he built quite a big college outreach circuit over there. Then, from there, approximately till around 2004, he was primarily a community builder. Now, he was largely based in Radha Gopinath temple, and his focus was on building the community over there. Then from there onwards, you could say till about 2022 or so, his focus was more of Western outreach. Now, it's not that the previous things were stopped, but the focus was different. And now, especially you could say 2020, 23 onwards, now it seems that his focus is more on consolidation. I'll explain what that means. That while he's still wanting to do Western outreach, but his focus is more on doing Western outreach in India. And he plans, at least that's what I have gathered from talking with him and several of other my senior board brothers also. Now, in each of these phases, it's the same person, but the same person manifests different purposes, different priorities, especially. So let's begin with each of these. Now, regarding his, I'll not mention much about the journey home phase, but just a couple of things that which I have gained more appreciation of that after I started going to Western outreach. That the 1960s were an especially turbulent phase in American history for growing up. That was the time of the counterculture. And the youth at that time, that is also time of the civil rights movement. Maharaj mentioned about how he also marched in the civil rights movement. So there was a lot of concern among the youth coming up at that time. That was the time when they started calling as post-material values. It's not non-material values, it's more post-material values. That means till people get a basic level of financial security, the primary concern is, okay, which job will give me the maximum money? How can I earn more money? How can I get a better position in society? So that is considered materialistic values. And like every country, America was also going through that phase. But after the Second World War, America became quite strongly established as both a military and financial superpower. So the youth that grew up at that time didn't have the driving anxiety that previous generations had. So like we may see in our children also now. Our generation had a certain level of financial anxiety, and in one sense, financial well-being was a priority. But many of the young people who are growing up now, they are pursuing many non-conventional careers also. And there's a little bit more looking for meaning and satisfaction, what we call job satisfaction. So people start exploring what can I do to find more meaning in life. So that was the time when America was in that phase. And during that time, Maharaj grew up, and this side of Maharaj generally, that he is an American, he grew up at a particular time, and he has drawn from those experiences in shaping his Krishna consciousness that sometimes get lost. I recently did a course on the history of Gaudiya Vaishnava, where I talked about we can look at the acharyas from two perspectives. One is how they manifest timeless values, how every acharya is devoted to Krishna, how they do sacrifice for Krishna. That's one thing, but another is how they adopt timely strategies. Their values are timeless, but the strategies, how they function in the particular challenges they are facing, how they function, that is a time, place, circumstance. So if you place an acharya in their particular time, place, circumstance, understanding what was going on at that time, then we get a different and often deeper appreciation of the Acharya. So this aspect of Maharaj, for most devotees, including for me, it came into consciousness when Maharaj gave the marathon class about Bhakti Tirth Maharaj. At that time, he spoke quite elaborately about American history, and then he spoke about how Bhakti Tirth Maharaj emerged from that turbulent time the civil rights movement was going on. So one of the values that was prominent at that time is non-sectarianism. That while people were interested in religion, Christianity itself at that time was, in one sense, quite sectarian, that God can be accessed only through us and through no other tradition. So it was in 1965 that they had a Vatican II Council, and then they said that they didn't say that you can attain God by other religions, but God is accessible through other religions also. That is what is noble and worthy in other religions also should be appreciated. But the youth at that time had a very great aversion towards sectarianism. And the youth at that time, when many of them adopted Eastern tradition, whether it is Krishna consciousness or some other path, they went two ways. One of them is that they saw Krishna consciousness as a non-sectarian and took it up as a non-sectarian spiritual practice. Others, some of them basically, maybe consciously or unconsciously, they just replaced Jesus with Prabhupada. So the same one-pointed devotion, that Jesus is the only way, Prabhupada is the only way. Now, we may not say that overtly, but that mentality came in at times. So that was something which I see strikingly absent in Maharaj. So once we were in the Brahmachari ashram and we were reading the Lilananda. So Maharaj came for the Brahmachari class. He sat down and we asked Maharaj, please you speak, Maharaj. So there's a particular pastime going on. So there they had, the pastime was that Prabhupada had been invited for some book inauguration, and the book was in Odia. And Prabhupada came for the book inauguration, and Prabhupada started. The entire talk was about how Prabhupada said, yeah, so this book has been written, it is in Odia. I don't know Odia, so I can't say much about this book. But this book is said to be about Jagannath, and I'll speak about Jagannath. so for Prabhupada, that was just that occasion was simply a launching point to speak about Prabhupada, to speak about Jagannath. And then specifically he spoke about he's Jagannath. Why are you making him Bharatnath? And already devotees from all over the world were sincerely serving, letting them inside. So when we were reading this, Maharaj said that, he said that I can never do this. That he said, if I am invited to a particular occasion, either I will not go for that occasion, or if I go to that occasion, I have to speak on that occasion. So this was the first time it struck me that there is a difference between following an acharya and imitating an acharya. So now we all know there is a difference in anukarana and anusaran. But we often think of that primarily in terms of the acharyas do some extraordinary things and we can't claim. Sometimes they may flout the rules or they may override the rules for a higher purpose, and we say we can't do that. But it was not just that. Every acharya has their own distinctive personality. And when I was studying for this Gaudiya Vaishnava history course, I look at the difference between, say, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. A very significant difference. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was more of a reformer. Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur was more like a revolutionary. So the idea is that, okay, say in the house, this wall is a little sagging, you need to repair the hall. The paint over there is gone up, you have to repaint this. That door is a little spoiled, you have to get a new door over there. That's a reformer. A revolutionary says, let's just blow up the whole house and build a new house. So now both may be valid. It depends on time, place, circumstance. So it also depends on the nature of a person, what they want to achieve. So in that sense, Prabhupada often had a revolutionary approach. Actually, practicing and sharing Krishna consciousness itself is intrinsically revolutionary. They are going against the flow of the world. But a revolutionary purpose can be pursued by revolutionary means, and it can also be pursued by non-revolutionary, more of reformist kind of means. So generally, Maharaj's mood is reformist. So Maharaj has often expressed distress to me when some devotees make statements which come off as very sectarian. And we try to say that ours is the only way. So I think once a devotee in the Radhadesh temple, the Bhagavatam class gave a talk about how there was some article in the newspaper about how the Pope at that time, the Pope also eats meat. And the whole talk was how, if the highest religious authority of a particular religion eats meat, what wisdom can they have, and what can people gain by following this religion? So then Maharaj afterwards clarified to the devotees and to, I don't know the speaker, but at least he clarified to us. He said that, other than looking at that one particular feature, he said that what we need to see is that not that this person is actually eating meat, so what value can they have? So rather we can see that actually Pope John Paul II was quite a visionary. He was talking about Pope John Paul II at that time, and he did a lot of work in one sense to try to not just spread Christianity but also protect the world from the advance of atheism. So in his own way, what he did is laudable. So the thing was that Maharaj said that rather than thinking if he's eating meat, what good can he do? What we should be thinking is that in spite of eating meat, if he's able to do so much, then we are not eating meat, why are we not able to do more? So the idea is, if Krishna can empower someone, ultimately it's Krishna who is acting. God is not the monopoly of ISKCON. God is acting in various ways in various places. So if God can act through or empower even a person who has some behavioral deficiencies, then if we don't have, then what is it that we are lacking? Rather than highlighting what others are lacking, see, generally speaking, this is the key characteristic of sectarianism, what I've observed. Sectarianism is both centered on how good we are and how terrible others are. But for any thoughtful person, it just doesn't register. It's like, in the cricket match, you say, oh, India has the best batsman, India has the best ball, best fast bowler, best spinner, best wicket keeper, best all-rounder, best fielder. And still India keeps losing. Well, then if you say others have terrible players, then how are they winning? Why are they losing? So if we have the best, then if we are not winning, instead of saying they don't have good players, we have good players, we have to see why are we not working. So in the history of India, it's often portrayed as if India had such great kings. But then every aggressor came and kept defeating India. So now there is a complex historical reasons for that. But the point I'm making is, it's a characteristic of sectarianism is self-congratulation. That we are so great, by which I am so great, basically. So I have not seen that at all in Maharaj. So this self-congratulation actually puts off thoughtful people very much. So I think that's one key value, which of course, you could say that might have been the innate value also, but that's what, from that age, that's something which very strikingly comes up. Now, after Maharaj went on his search, he met Srila Prabhupada, and then due to various circumstances, he went to New Vrindavan. Basically, among various things, his visa ran out and he had to leave India. So he felt that he was in love with Vrindavan, and Prabhupada said that Prabhupada has created New Vrindavan. So he went there. And New Vrindavan was like a military camp at that time. Because there are many different conceptions of what ISKCON is. So some people think it should be primarily a home. Some people see it's primarily an office. So some people have the idea that ISKCON is primarily like a military camp. So in military camp, what is the primary value? Discipline. Just obey and do whatever you are told. Discipline and immense amount of sacrifice that is required and expected and demanded and even insisted on. So that was what I think I mentioned this last time, that and somebody would ask Maharaj that, Maharaj, will you be writing another book about your new Vrindaban days? So Maharaj said, those who come by reading the first book will go away after reading the second day. So it was a time of immense austerity. Now, in some ways, almost everyone at that time did some austerity or the other. It was a very difficult time. So what Maharaj did was in some ways exceptional, but in some ways it was normal at that time. Not everybody necessarily did all the worship, all the offerings for the deity and sleeping just a few hours in between. That level of austerity was enormous. But certainly it was not an easy life for anyone at that time. Everybody was living in immense austerity. And in some ways at that time, Maharaj, it was just he and Krishna. It was he and Krishna and the cows. So the way Ghanshyam Baba was living, Maharaj saw him living. So it was just like that. And for many of us, in one sense, we try to share Krishna Bhakti, we try to connect with devotees because it's a service to Krishna. You want to build a community, you want to share Krishna consciousness with others. But it's also that we need that. If we are alone, we won't be able to practice Bhakti for very long. If we are alone, we'll just be alone with our mind. And our mind has a mind of its own. It can take us anywhere and everywhere. So for us, it's that we need association, we need engagement where we are interacting with people. So Maharaj's interaction was very, very less. So it's like, basically, the way I have seen that, it's like we need Maharaj. Maharaj does not need us. Maharaj wants us. So there's need and there is want. And now we say we should follow the material domain. We say fulfill our need, don't fulfill our wants. But in the spiritual domain, those who are Atmaram, they have no needs. But what they have is the Krishna does not need anyone at all. And Krishna has relationships. That's not out of a need, a sense of inadequacy or incompleteness. That's because Krishna just wants to share his completeness with others. So there are times when Maharaj also withdraws from the world and he is completely satisfied in himself. So for many years previously, he would go to Rishikesh, especially he was writing a book. At that time, he would go to Rishikesh and he would just be with one or two people. And for days, Maharaj would not talk with anyone also. In fact, for some time, till some time before, the same rock on which Maharaj had sat and meditated, that rock was still there in Rishikesh. Then there was a landslide and storm and that rock went away. But Maharaj would go and sit on that very rock. And I think Maharaj was meditating for writing his books and other things over there. So that capacity to be immersed in Krishna and to be content in Krishna, that is something which is extraordinary. In our tradition, we have these two kinds of transcendentalists. We have Bhajananandis and we have Goshanandis. So now, these two categories generally are made in the sense that those who are Bhajananandis, they are satisfied in their own bhajan. And Goshanandis, they want to share with others. And that's required, of course, that sharing with others. But Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur says in one lecture that actually every Goshanandi has to be a Bhajananandi. that if we are not actually getting contentment and enrichment in our bhajan, we can't really effectively share with others. So for him, he was once telling some of senior God brothers that he had thought that this was going to be his life for the rest of his life. Every day he would wake up, worship the deities, and that's what would go on. And he was quite ready to do that. There was no any need for external recognition or validation. And now when Maharaj meets with all these celebrities, we'll talk about that phase when we come to it. Right? One of the devotees who organizes this for Maharaj quite a bit, he was telling me that for Maharaj, actually it's an austerity. He is much happier talking about Chaitanya Lila and talking about Krishna Lila and talking to devotees directly. But he's doing this as an austerity. He does not need that kind of recognition. And that was a stage 30 from 50 years ago almost, from 71 to 79. It's completely enriched in Krishna. So, so that was one phase where, of course, we knew that he was a serious spiritual seeker. A seeker in the sense of seeking a spiritual path. But it's like just being immersed in sadhana. Even the seva is just like sadhana only, it's deity worship. And in the seva, but it's also sadhana. So he's just satisfied in that. And then in around 79, suddenly he got an instruction. He says, you go and now do preaching in colleges. So now, Maharaj tells, I think many of you may have heard in this class that when they were introduced to bhakti, one of the things was there were some people who were spiritual seekers, and there are others who were not spiritual seekers, but they were pretending to be spiritual seekers because they just wanted to be draft dodgers. Draft was basically America had a policy where they were compulsorily drafting young people into the military, mainly young men. So the Vietnam War was going on, and they wanted the army. So that was one of the ways devotees would get people to join also. He says, if you don't join into a temple, you'll have to go to Vietnam. So you'll be drafted. So Maharaj said that when around 70, 79 onwards, and he started going to a college outreach. He was going for a college. He spoke the same thing. He said, if you don't join the temple, otherwise you will draft it. And the students looked at him, the draft ended a decade ago. So, almost a decade ago. So, really, I said, I had no idea. So, it was a time when it was completely disconnected from the world. And then it's not just connect back with the world, but connect with the youth who are generally most connected with the world. So it was in one sense a huge challenge, and the way he was told was he was not given any assistant. He was just given one broken van as a means. Okay, you go to various colleges and do outreach. So in America, what do they call it? RV, no? What is it? RV? RV people say in that.
Yes.
Okay, so Maharaj eventually got that van, and then he used to travel from place to place in that van. One of our godbrothers in Dallas, he still has that van in which Maharaj is going to stay. I don't know whether it's the same van throughout from 79 to 87, but at least for several years. So Maharaj stayed in that van, he would in that van, he had the deities in that van. So I don't know some either picture or deities, but I worship in that van. He just go from place to place. And that was the time when he he knew Vrindaban was his base, but he just once in a few months he would come there, stay for a few days, and then he would leave. Because that was his focus. And it was remarkable how much service he did at that time. It was a very difficult thing because at that time the college outreach was happening It was there was, and there were hardly any Indian students. It was mostly Western people, and America was also. Maharaj would go around the New Vrindaban area, and New Vrindaban area, around that area, if you consider, it is still quite a Christian area, Christian evangelical area.
Yeah.
So it's not that easy for somebody who is a monk from a different tradition to go and speak. Now things have changed so much. Now monks are very cool.
Yeah.
Now many of our devotees, when they write books, mainstream publishers, I'm also working with mainstream publisher. The first thing the publisher says, we want the monk's picture on the cover. So it is, things have changed quite a bit. And that's a fascinating cultural change that has been happening in 10 years or 10, 15 years or so. But it was very difficult. So it is not just I didn't have the logistical support from his side, but the environment also was not very supportive. And any problem?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. So
Prabhuji used to drive himself.
yeah, it was.
Nobody with him.
No. Actually, even now when Maharaj is in Chicago, he drives himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, when in Chicago, he stays. He has a.
I've seen Maharaj driving.
Sorry.
I've seen Maharaj driving.
Yeah. So in Chicago now he has the same house in which he grew up. Right? One of our God brother Balram Prabhu bought that house and he was staying in that house and Maharaj would stay in the basement of that house. I said this is where I would read and think. And now Balram Prabhu has moved to a house nearby. So Maharaj had that whole house for himself and his guests come and meet him and they talk with him. So Maharaj drives on his own. So he used to do everything himself. That's where, see, in one sense, when a service changes, we could always just see this is a new service and I just have to learn everything, or we can carry forward things which you have learned from the previous service and take it forward. So Maharaj especially took forward cooking and started cooking classes over there. And his cooking classes were quite effective. Recently, I met one devotee who was very close to Sadaput Prabhu. Sadaput Prabhu is Dr. H.R. Thompson. He is one of the best scientists, steward scientists in our movement. He wrote several very good books. Basic Cosmography, Maya, the World as a Virtual Reality, Mechanistic and Non-Mechanistic Science. And his books were one of the things that really convinced me about Krishna consciousness. So he apparently, Sadaput Prabhu and Maharaj would travel together. So Sadaput Prabhu would speak scientific stuff and Maharaj would speak direct devotional stuff. So it is quite powerful. I think this is something which we can try and do in this world also. Science and have somebody speaking proper spiritual together. So not even audio at that time. Technology was not there so much at that time. And neither of them at that time were leaders who would have followers with them. Sadaput Prabhu was more of a solitary scholar. And Maharaj also didn't have any followers at that time. Now through that, he developed a significant community. When I was in Columbus, I had visited Chicago and I had gone from Columbus to Chicago. So Maharaj asked me where I was. So I said I was in Chicago. I was in Columbus. Maharaj said actually, he said he had got the details of Columbus. So basically, while he was doing college outreach, Columbus has Ohio State University, which is a big university. And through that, some outreach people started coming. And then we decided to have a center. So even now, Maharaj, Columbus devotees are going to now build a big temple. And so Maharaj has promised that he will personally drive the car in which the deities will go from the new temple to the old temple to the new temple. So he has that personal connection. So many of the areas where outreach started around New Vrindaban, it was all actually done by Maharaj. And in many ways, devotees have Yugal Kishore Prabhu, he was also based in New Vrindaban, and from there he went and traveled and preached various places. So Maharaj was never a prominent leader in New Vrindaban. Maharaj said, I have never been a president of a temple. He was not in management directly any time. And New Vrindavan went through certain phases. So basically, I'll talk briefly about the Vrindavan phase. Then we'll move forward. That's a whole complex history. But the leader over there, he basically felt that we are too Indian to be able to reach out to Western people effectively. So he started doing some adaptations. He said, let us wear black robes like the way Christian preachers wear. He said, our names are too Indian. So he started giving initiated names which were more like Western names. So this they will be like English translations of Sanskrit names. Actually, the Christians are doing that in India. Now, when somebody becomes a Christian, they don't change their names. They still continue to have their Indian name. Maybe they have some addition, but it's like they take whatever is a Hebrew name or a Latin name. They find it's Indian language equivalent, and they use that name so that people don't change. So it's not unprecedented, and some kind of cultural adaptations. Then another thing that they did at that time was that all the morning Mangalarti and others, they created English versions of those songs. And whole Mangalarti would be in English. Guru Puja would be in English. And I've heard those songs, quite nice lyrical songs. And then they also, when they came to India, they made Mangalarti in Hindi. And you would have Mangalarti in Hindi. So they did quite a bit of adaptations. We call it adaptations, innovations, deviations, whatever, basically changes. So Maharaj didn't buy into those changes. So Maharaj still would wear saffron robes. Maharaj would still, so that time they would have this, he said, loud chanting is not meditative. So chanting should be soft and almost in the mind. And Maharaj would still chant the way which is standard, and Prabhupada recommended that. So because of that, Maharaj is telling you about it. Because during that, many things happened, and you still accuse Maharaj was a part of it all. But Maharaj told me, actually, in New Vrindavan, the leaders always treated me like a black sheep. Because he did not buy into the various changes. And I was not even the three things Maharaj told me, that I didn't stay much in New Vrindavan. I didn't buy into the changes that they were doing. And I was not involved in any, I was never in any managerial position in New Vrindavan. So he was, most of the decisions that were taken, he didn't even know about them. And whatever happened, all that was just going on over there. So then, around 86, 87, so those were times when devotees, in their zeal to share Krishna Bhakti, they also share, which sometimes cross the moral line. So like in book distribution, what devotees did was that they would, now Maharaj was never actively involved much in book distribution. He was in going to college, he would actually give a class, he would do kirtan, he would do cooking, but he's not actively involved directly in book distribution. And book distribution has been a remarkable thing in our movement's history. But sometimes some devotees got over enthusiastic. So what they would do is, there are many people in America who are unemployed who live on security. So maybe once a fortnight or once a month, they would get the allowance from the government, which they are supposed to use for maintaining them throughout the month. And when people get that allowance, most of them, they immediately buy a lot of drugs and they go high. And then at that time they are dazed. So some devotees would deliberately go at that time and give books to people. And in America, we're not selling books, you're giving books and people are giving charity. So people would be dazed and they would talk in particular way, and they take one book and they would take $100, $500, $200. So basically, almost the entire allowance that was supposed to be there for that person's whole month, all that would be taken. And the devotee would get more collections and that would be glorified. So over a period of time, this became so bad that we got a very bad rap. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj at one time told you to stop doing book distribution entirely. So like this, some question. Now this is just one. Many other questionable practices were involved, where started being happening. But Maharaj was not involved in this at all, because he was not in the management. He was not in that sense guiding devotees. But then, because of various issues, in 1987, the leader of New Vrindaban, he was also used to come to India, and he couldn't come to India because of legal reasons. So he couldn't leave America because of what legal complications were there. So then he told Maharaj to come here. Maharaj used to come sometimes here or here, but he told Maharaj to take up the leadership of this project. And then from that time onwards, Maharaj started spending more time in India. And so what? But there's this dismissive attitude. See, that basically in the college outreach, conclude this part. In college outreach, basically, one thing I've observed about Maharaj is that he takes up one thing and it's Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Ekeka Purna. Maharaj doesn't, so when he was doing Pujari service, just in college outreach, he's focused on college outreach. You meet with devotees, talk with devotees at various places, cultivate devotees. But he's just focused on doing what he finds, what he sees is valuable, what is his service, he focuses on that. Later on, when some of the in ISKCON, many of the leaders in the 1980s, they had problems and they fell away from their spiritual practices. And then that's how there were some different groups that came up. There was one group which was like more of an internal ISKCON reform. The other was the Ritvik movement. The internal reform was the gurus need to be chosen, guru need to be more accountable. They are not absolute authorities. There's some oversight on the power of the gurus. The other was actually there are no gurus. Prabhupada is the only guru. So Maharaj was once telling me about the Ritviks. He said that they criticize us that we are gurus and we're doing this. But he said that the people who betrayed them are also the people who betrayed us. That it's not that most of the gurus who are influential gurus in ISKCON right now, they were not in leadership position in 1980 so much. There are others who were leaders, and all of them were subordinate. And you look at some of the histories, the kind of demands that are made from Maharaj, it is quite, somebody would call it abusive, the kind of services that were expected, the kind of surrender that was expected. So Maharaj went through that phase, and his idea is that there are many things wrong in the world, but rather than focusing on what is wrong, you can see what we can set right. And so Maharaj takes one service and just builds on that service. With Pujari service, do the Pujari service very nicely. So in college outreach, just do college outreach. There's the purport of Prabhupada's 7th canto. He says we should always be healthy and stout in mind and intelligence to determine the goal of life amid a life full of problems. A life full of problems means there are hundreds of things wrong. But what is actually going to make a positive difference? Just keep fighting hundreds of problems or complaining about hundreds of problems, that doesn't help. So Maharaj's focus was on creating a healthy alternative. So one thing he tried to build a community in New Vrindaban through college outreach. And actually around 86, 87, after all the years of service that he had done, when the whole college outreach was just starting to have fruits, that is when the community was being built, that time he was told to come to India. And the way it was, it's like say, if we have invested our blood and toil in some project, and suddenly we are told to go somewhere else, that itself is difficult. But at least if there is a worthy successor who will take care of that project, then we have entrusted this to someone and let them take care. So Maharaj asked who will take care. Says, that is not your problem. This is not your project. This is Krishna's project. Now that is true at one level, but it is a very harsh way of just neglecting or devaluing the service that the person has done. Not just giving credit to the person, but also actually the whole service, and the college outreach just collapsed after that. Many people are in, but it was extremely difficult that particular phase when I feel in that was like in some ways 5 to 10 times bigger than what Prabhupada tried to build in Jhansi. We tried to start the League of Devotees. Prabhupada stopped his business. Prabhupada stopped even visiting his family. He was not officially a sannyasi at that time. He was still like a vanaprastha. But Prabhupada, to use a contemporary word, put all his eggs in one basket. And then, not that the eggs broke, the basket itself was taken. Like that. So it was difficult. Prabhupada walked away from it. Okay. But here it was Maharaj took years of effort and suddenly it was taken away. So that key thing, that take one thing and focus on that. Maharaj also, even now you see when he goes to America, he doesn't travel to many places in America. We'll talk about what he does in India also later on. But then when he came to India, generally there are two ways of looking at the material. One is at material things in the world, that it is lacking in the spiritual. And the other is, it is pointing to the spiritual. So the material can be seen as Maya, there is nothing spiritual in this and nothing of value in it. That's one way of looking at it. The other is, okay, this is actually pointing to the spiritual. It is preparing one for the spiritual. So in the past, most leaders, they took certain things from Prabhupada, and based on, not most, I say many, this was a prominent approach. In fact, this was seen as the strong, non-compromising approach. So for example, in the 80s, slowly Indians started coming to Krishna consciousness as followers. So there's a difference between Indians as supporters and Indians as followers, as people who wanted to become dedicated devotees. During Prabhupada's time, there were many life members. So, during Prabhupada's time, there were full-time devotees. They were relatively few in number, but they were there. And then there were life members. So the life members there, they're offering some kind of support to Prabhupada financially or institutionally through their own contacts. But there was now most devotees are congregation devotees. So this is a new whole genre, which was a new category of followers which is not there during Prabhupada's times. So when Maharaj came to India, the previous leader who was there. All the Indians who would come, he would just say, don't think you are pious. All this is just mundane rituals. And no amount of rituals will ever get you to Krishna. He says, you have to give up all your rituals. Only then you will come to Krishna. So this was the mood of many leaders. I just was in Scotland 2-3 days ago. The other leader over there previously, he said that I will push you through a hole so tiny that nothing except your soul can go through it. Everything, all the conditioning, all the ego is left behind, only the soul will go through. Now, that is one way of looking at it. But another way is that Krishna has not given us our body, mind, intelligence to reject it all. All these, they can take us away from Krishna, but all this can take us toward Krishna. So, that approach of telling people to just reject everything from their past, it's all just ritualistic. So that was causing a lot of problems. So many of the devotees who are leaders now in Radhagopan congregation, those are doctors who started Bhaktivedanta Hospital. Their idea was, they were also told, you just join the temple, you become full-time devotees. You move to the temple. And they did that. Now their parents were understandably very upset. And not only that, many of them were already married. And husband and wife are both living in the temple. And it was quite difficult for them to manage everything like that. So then when Maharaj came, he 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 understood the situation, the ground reality, talked with the devotees, and Maharaj had the experience of being in India, and he had observed Indian culture before he was, in one sense, exposed to ISKCON culture. So Indian devotional culture, Indian spiritual culture, he observed that. So then Maharaj basically, so Maharaj's approach was that all that you have, that is in one sense preparing you, building you for Krishna. That's how from eventually the idea of those who were already doctors, they could start a Bhaktan hospital. They had a small clinic before. But first they had a moving medical van, which they would go and give free treatment in various places, and they would get some financial support. And gradually from that, the idea of hospital came. So the idea of basically affirming what people have and taking it forward from there, rather than rejecting or devaluing what people have. That this is Maya. This is also something which can be used in Krishna's service. That was something which he focused on. So at that time, the whole idea of wearing robes, that was told. Even Indian devotees are told to wear black robes. Now in India, we don't want to look like Christians. In the West, we don't want to look like Christians. But why did it in India look like Christians? So that was how the leader was accepting Maharaj. No, and I think Krishna told me Maharaj was on top of that leader, and he said that if this is what you want, then you can do that, but I will no longer be a part of the service. And the previous leader had no one else, so he just hung the phone. And so Maharaj was true to his principles. In 1993, there was some big upheaval where the previous leader, he had some issues which got exposed, and then he left the community in Vrindaban. And then at that time, the devotees from Radhadesh temple, they all had developed great trust. Till then, many of them were being initiated by the previous leader. Maharaj was not yet initiating guru, but all their connection was with Maharaj. And then they called Maharaj back. And Maharaj was not there, knew Radha Gopinath, but they called Maharaj back. And then at that time, basically, the Radha Gopinath community started functioning in around 1980, was it 84, 85, something like 84, 85, 86. Basically, the whole New Vrindavan community was expelled from ISKCON for various reasons. Many things. One was that they were found to be involved in some questionable activities. Vrindaban was a huge land, and that land was used by drug traffickers for taking drugs across. And then the leadership there decided that they will give us some fund for building the palace of gold, and they will leave us alone. We will leave them alone. But these things don't work like that. And things started becoming worse and worse and worse. So a lot of things happened. So when things came out, ISKCON said that we should have nothing to do with this, but the leader didn't listen. And the previous leader came on national television, and he, like I said, that on national television he said that basically there is some quote which Prabhupada, my Indian author, he said, like, just like you beat a mrudanga, the mrudanga gives good sound, like that. Like women should be beaten. And he said that in public, on television. And that started becoming like, this is the teaching of ISKCON. Now, that is certainly not the teaching. So basically at that time, ISKCON expelled. But the way things were, that many of the New Vrindavan devotees, so the idea was that the women become disciplined by being beaten. So just like you whip a dog, like that, you beat a woman. It's a horrible idea. But so basically he did many things like that. He was expelled from ISKCON. And New Vrindavan was quite close. There's no internet over there. There's no television over there. Radio was also not much there. So devotees didn't know what happened. They only heard their side of the story. And they said, oh, all these ISKCON, they don't follow Prabhupada strictly. We are only following Prabhupada strictly. And they feel insecure. That's why they expelled us. So basically, the New Vrindavan community, some of the devotees stayed with Radhanath Swami, who was the leader at that time. Others left. But now Maharaj was practically not in Vrindaban. So he never officially left with that group when they left ISKCON, or when they were expelled from ISKCON. But he didn't officially come back to ISKCON because he had his whole Krishna consciousness had been in Vrindaban and then college outreach. So then in 1993, when that leader had issues, that's the time when the whole Radha Gopinath community and all those who were following Maharaj, they officially came back to ISKCON. So they were never out. They never actually went out of ISKCON, but de facto they were out of ISKCON. So they came. So then, from that time onwards, the integration of, you could say, the Radha Gopinath temple community with the mainstream ISKCON started going on. But there's one devotee who's a good sociologist, like a social observer. He said that Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj and Radhanath Maharaj both had been in Vrindavan, and both were in that sense on the fringes of ISKCON. And because they were on the fringes, they were able to do certain things which other centers were not able to do. And those were mainly three things. So Maharaj, I think I mentioned that last time also. Maharaj said that there will be no fundraising by the brahmacharis. The brahmacharis will focus on studying Shastra. And Maharaj said there will be no focus on temple building, there will be no focus on book distribution. I said we want to first build a community. And this was a radically different focus from what was conventionally there. Now the fruits of that are there to see. But this idea of actually building a community, that itself was not there in the past. It was, okay, you have a temple, people move to the temple and they go on. If they can't go on, that's their problem. So, but as we start having a congregation, as we start having a devotee not staying in the temple, so what all do they need for that purpose? So this phase of building a community is in many ways what Maharaj has pioneered. Many other devotees have done that afterwards. Different communities have been built. Now there are two different things over here. Wherever there is a charismatic preacher, people will come, and in one sense, you could say a community is formed over there, and that's true at one level. But that is based on the charisma of the preacher. But what we are talking here is about providing facilities for devotees to continue the practice of bhakti without overly depending on the inspiration by that leader. So, in that sense, the one is like a community forms, and the community forms around a leader. The other is a community is carefully built. So, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj would say that preaching doesn't just mean speaking about Krishna. It means two things. It means breaking the walls that are stopping people from coming to Krishna and building the bridges by which people can come towards Krishna. So that's a very beautiful vision. What are the walls that are stopping people right now, and how can we break those walls? And what are the bridges that need to be built? So that community building, in that sense, like somebody can be a charismatic preacher and you speak and people come to bhakti. So that's a community forming. So community building versus, you could say, a community forming. And community forming is also wonderful. It requires the potency of the preacher to be able to do that. But the difference is it's more the preacher centered. So because of the charisma of the preacher that is going on. But community building means that walls are broken, walls that are obstacles, and then bridges are built. So basically facilities are created so that devotees can actually get whatever resources are needed for the practice of bhakti. So among the various things now which has become very prominent is for our devotees when we have children. So where are they going to be educated? In the past it was just send them to Gurukul. And the Gurukul will be somewhere far away, and that doesn't work. Or just send them to mainstream school. That is none of our business. If you're not sending them to Gurukul, then you are unsurrendered. Then you are in Maya and your children will be in Maya. It is not like that. We had to create some facilities. So a school, Gopal Garden School was built. Before that, we had the whole council system. Devotees should take care of devotees. The Bhakti Hospital. Then some facility, some support for devotees to get married. So in the past, if some devotee had to get married, it was basically the spiritual master of the temple himself would say, "You get married to this person." That's it. Or it was like uh, it was almost like a Rajasic version of arranged marriages. So now in arranged marriages, there is some amount of deliberation. Now maybe the financial is one aspect of it. It's a major aspect, but still there is a lot of deliberation that goes on. What is appropriate? The parents know the children to some extent at least. Astrology, many things are considered. But it's that you're surrendered to Krishna, you just work together. It didn't work. And when that didn't happen, then devotees were left to their own means. So to try to create some support facility. Now what exact support facility will work when? That depends on time, place, circumstance. But just the vision to try to do something like that. So in that sense, putting in sustained efforts to build a community. That is very important. Gaurang Prabhu is now doing his master, doing his PhD. So his focus on community building in Vaishnava, in Bhakti, in the history of Bhakti, Vaishnavism. So it's quite a interesting subject because Bhakti has been often thought to be otherworldly. Like the iconic images of saints, whichever you are in Maharashtra, Tukaram Maharaj, right? Iconic images that he's not even concerned about his job, he's not concerned about his family. If there is no food, Krishna will come and provide the food. But he is completely absorbed in chanting Krishna's names. He's supposed to take care of a farm, and animals are coming and eating that farm. But he is simply chanting the names of Krishna. And then Krishna replenishes that farm. Now, the saints Krishna can do that. But that was not the model for everyone. See, there's a difference between an inspiration and a model. There can be many inspirations. Like sannyasis can be inspirations for grahasthas. But sannyasis are not models for grahasthas. At least not in that ashram. I was talking with one devotee in UK. He was telling me, just I was in UK. So he said, yesterday was my wife's wedding anniversary. So I first started to want it to be. I said, "Is this your ex-wife?" I asked him. No, this is my wife. Isn't it your wedding anniversary? So he said, these are all mundane things. I don't believe in all of them. So I don't care for them. I'm not attached. So I said to him that if you don't care for them, that is all the more reason to care for them. Because bhakti is not about detachment, it is about service attitude. Sometimes if detachment is overemphasized, then we cannot form relationships. We cannot form community. A family cannot be formed if detachment is the primary value. There's one devotee who had a lot of variety of experiences in this call. He told me the first lecture of Radhanath Maharaj that he heard. So he said, Maharaj emphasizing, there should be love and trust among devotees. And he said, I was sitting and I was looking at the devotees next week, love and trust among devotees. Is that ISKCON philosophy? So, ISKCON philosophy, chant Hare Krishna, get purified, go back to God. Now, of course, Sadvidham Priti Lakshanam is there. But what happens is that because in the first generation, almost everyone moved into the temple. So that ethos of renunciation is overemphasized. And that has almost like a generational jet lag has been carried on. So now devotees who are grahasthas, there the family has to be together. The family has to be together and serve Krishna together. And see, that's one of the purpose of ISKCON also, that Prabhupada said to bring people closer to each other and closer to Krishna, the prime entity. That's one of the purpose of ISKCON. So we could say in the first generation, circumstantially, detachment was a very high virtue. And it is important. But in second and in most likely in all future generations, if we are going to have families, if we are going to have communities, then what is required as a primary virtue is service attitude, not so much as. So if detachment is what is emphasized, then we cannot form communities. So you see, Maharaj in his classes hardly ever focuses too much on giving up sense gratification. His focus is more on Truna, the peaceful nature, the road of peace. It is not so much on don't be attached, but more be humble. So it's like if our purpose is to practice, just renounce the world and go back to Krishna, okay, detachment is helpful. But if our purpose is also be together in the community of devotees, then we don't need detachment as much as we need humility. Now you can say humility is detachment from the ego. That is true, but the emphasis comes both from who he is, but also from what he has seen is the need of the community. So, in the last few years, I've been analyzing different preachers and what is the emphasis in their classes. So, if you see in Krishna consciousness, we can have multiple things. We can have Siddhanta, we can have sadhana, we can have seva, we can have sadachar. So that means that each class, and each of these are valid things. Siddhanta means, this is Mayavad, this is how it is wrong. This is our philosophy, all this is wrong, 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 wrong. I was in the manner, I gave a class, and there some devotee asked, is our philosophy similar to panentheism? Pantheism is everything is God. Panentheism is that God is everything and God is more. So I said, yes, among the various terms in the Western philosophical tradition that could be used, panentheism would be the closest. There are some differences. But the next day, one devotee gave a whole class. The whole class was how it is a deviation to say that our philosophy is panentheism. Well, okay. Yes, I'm not saying it's panentheism, but the point is that you're not criticizing me, but effectively you're saying that that's not correct. So I had a nice talk with the devotee afterwards. Now some devotees for them, Siddhanta is very important. Now yes, we can say that, we are not Hindus. We can say that. But if we are going to put ourselves in the religious classification of the world, we are certainly not going to say we are Muslims. Isn't it? So we can say we are practicing the spiritual path, so we are not Hindus. But there is a Vyavaharik and there is a Paramarthik. Because Paramarthik, we are Krishna Bhaktas, we are not Hindus. But in the Vyavaharik categorization, we are Hindus. And if we don't acknowledge that, then we can't expect other Hindus to help us when we need them. And when they need us, we say we are not Hindus. That is just opportunistic. That doesn't work. That's what is right now happening in. Some of you may have heard about Bangladesh. The terrible things are happening. Now, of course, our temple has been sacked and some Hindu homes have been attacked. So we have to reserve judgment right now, whether it is religiously targeted riots or it is just crime run rampant. Because right now there is practically no government over there. Police are not responding to anyone. So Indians generally, what happens is Hindus have a thought of responsibility. So even in Pakistan, actually Hindus are among the wealthier class of society. And in Bangladesh also Hindus are wealthier. So when Hindus are targeted, is it because of their religion? Is it because of their wealth? It is probably because of religion. But right now, it reserves judgment. But the point is that our devotees, they're contacting RSS and others for support. And they said, when has ISKCON supported any Hindu cause? So that's a valid question. Now, we cannot support any and every Hindu cause. But still, the point is that we cannot reject the Vyavaharik completely. There is the Vyavaharik and there is the Paramarthik. So if the Vyavaharik philosophical categorization is, say panentheism, then there is no need to reject that completely. Oh, okay. So anyway, for some devotees, Siddhanta is very important. It's important, no doubt. But we can emphasize it way more than what is necessary for most devotees. Now, some devotees may be very focused on sadhana. This. You have to chant your round. You have to wake up in the morning. You have to do this. You have to do that. Some devotees are focused a lot on seva. That all the classes will be how we have to have service attitude. And the favorite pastime will be that something like, when who was that person who had a lot of questions and he came to Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur told him, go and wash the plates of the deities. He washed the plates and he came back, I have no question. So something like that. So everybody has their own inspiration, and based on that, they'll find something in Shastra to support that. And that's fair enough. Everybody can have their own inspiration. Now, when I first gave Bhagavatam class in Radha Gopinath temple, I was quite new. I was not, 7, 8 years, 8, 10 years I was there, but I will come to Gopinath, so Gaurangpur attended my class. And I asked him after that, how was the class? He said, after a long time, I heard a class in which I couldn't detect any management agenda. No, I didn't even understand what he was saying. I was so naive at that time. But sometimes it happens that it's not a bad thing. Sometimes managers may also have a particular purpose and they may use the class for that purpose. But so for them, so if somebody is going to get things done, and service attitude. So all classes will be about service attitude. So generally speaking, what I have seen is Maharaj's classes, the focus is on sadachar. And not like hammering virtues down, but humility, tolerance, coming together in the community, and just being together as devotees. So he does talk about philosophy in the club. Dante talks about when it's required. But Maharaj is not too emphatic about. Maharaj, once there's some philosophical issue, there's a lot of conflict. So I asked Maharaj, what should we do? Maharaj said, this philosophical pettiness is a waste of time. It's a very philosophical pettiness. So it's sometimes we can get too caught in things. So Maharaj focuses more on the values the virtues that will help build a community. And all other things important, of course they're important in their own place. But one of the reasons I understand that Maharaj's classes are loved by devotees all over the world is because he focuses on the things that make immediate difference in people's lives. See, emphasis on sadhana is important, no doubt. But it's very easy when the emphasis to sadhana that people feel guilted into doing sadhana. The sense of guilt comes much more, and then it's not so much a positive connection with Krishna as more of a negative connection with Krishna. Oh, if I don't do this, what will people think of? But when that acceptance, affirmation is there, and that value, amanina manadena, that we respect devotees from wherever they come, whichever background, whatever be their particular situation. So that helps build a community. Now, in many places, this value of building a community and what is required for building a community, that is being picked up now. And among all the things that Maharaj has done within ISKCON, I consider community building to be the biggest. It is my small study. Now, within community building, there are many things. There is a Brahmacharya ashram which is focused on studying Shastra and teaching Shastra and not other things. There's a Grahasthas who are trained as counselors and mentors. There are various other ideas of devotees using their profession in Krishna's service, to Bhakti Hospital, whatever. So that is the community building phase. And then after that, that is the Western outreach phase. So I'll talk about that in the consolidation part and then we'll conclude. So around 2004, 2005, when Bhaktivedanta Maharaj departed, so he told Maharaj, write your story. Now Maharaj did spend a lot of time writing his story, but then in general what I've seen is that when Maharaj does something, he does not do it half-heartedly. Either he doesn't do it or he does it and he invests himself fully in it. So it is not just, if I write this story, write my life story, what can be done with that? So in the West, the way the world is right now, experience is seen as the highest pramana. That means if in my experience something is good, see, if you see Now, I don't remember what all I spoke in the session we had last time, and probably you also don't remember. So,
We spoke more about journey home, how the book got found, editing of the book, and how we helped in the editing.
oh, okay. So that was more of, you could say, my personal interaction with Maharaj, something like that.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
so okay. This is a little more analytical. I'm talking about a few interactions with Maharaj. Different phases. You can say pre-modern, post-modern mostly. So in pre-modern, basically the decision-making authority was Shastra for people. Whether it is Vedas in India, the Bible in the West, the Quran in the Middle East, decision-making authority was Shastra. Now, in the modern times, it was science. Is this scientific? Is this scientifically valid? So now, while there is still a lot of infatuation with technology, not so much with science per se. It's not that people think science will provide all the answers to life's questions. We still are excited about technology, people in general, but now in the postmodern times, the authority is experience. I will do something not because some scripture says so, not because science says so. I do it because it works for me. In my experience, this works. And if something has worked for someone in their experience, then I want to hear from it. I was at an interfaith conference in America, in DC, and we were talking about contemporary postmodern outreach. One Christian pastor was giving his experience. He says that 20, 30 years ago, if we were giving a discourse, a sermon, divorce is a sin against God. If you divorce, that kind of preaching would work. But in today's, this was 2016, 17. Today it will be even more true. Because today, if we tell a young couple, if you divorce, you will go to hell. They say, first you go to hell. We don't care for you. So, on the other hand, in the evangelical tradition, they have no monks. So they have only husband, wife, both of each other. So if a preacher couple comes and says, we have been married for 20 years and we would like to share how we made it work, I think people are very interested in that. Now within that, you can bring in the principles of the Bible. You don't start with the Bible says this. This is how it works for us, and this is how the Bible is also saying the same thing. So the idea is experience is considered a big authority for people. And to some extent, this was also understood in ISKCON. It is more like how I came to Krishna consciousness is a story which we ask everyone. And that's one of the popular columns in Back to God also. So that was there, but nobody had written a full book length of it. So Maharaj saw this as a way of, after he put his time and effort in writing the story, saw this as a way of doing Western outreach. And so that's where his focus has been for the last almost 1.5 or nearly 2 decades. And in my understanding, that was for 3 reasons. One is, Maharaj often quotes, especially when he's talking with preachers, is where there is greatest need, there is greatest mercy. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that. So, if somebody wants a glass of water, you give it to them, that's wonderful. But if somebody is on a war field, they're fighting war and they're parched or thirsty, you give them a glass of water at that time. It's far greater value. Where he wanted to, so he feels that there's a great need in the West. In the West, we have lots of Indians becoming devotees. So, one devotee, he recently wrote an article about how ISKCON is becoming like a Indian Society for Krishna Consciousness with international branches. So that is definitely a matter of concern. Actually, it's not entirely true. It is more of in Russia and in Ukraine, you had lots of people becoming devotees. So it's more like among cultures, the West is more egalitarian. Egalitarian means it's more equal. Like in Western companies, if you work, you refer to the boss also by the first name.
Yes.
So in the East, the cultures are more hierarchical. So wherever the cultures are hierarchical, we have been fairly successful. Wherever the mainstream culture is egalitarian, we have not been very successful. So now some devotees have the opinion that the hierarchical structure is central to Krishna consciousness, and some devotees feel not necessarily. So at least the hierarchical way of spreading Krishna consciousness has not had much success in the West. So Maharaj felt that there's a great need in the West, and not only is there a great need, there is also, he felt that he himself, as an American who has been in India, and now he has his own personal story as a testament. So he is very specially, you could say, disposed to do this. That he can do this in a way that few other people can. And also, Prabhupada wanted it very much. Prabhupada, when he was, this past time, Prabhupada in Africa, during their preaching to Indians, Prabhupada in Africa, we should be preaching to Africans over there. So we should be getting local people over there. So Prabhupada, movement needs it, because we don't have so many Western people. Maharaj has the capacity to do it, and Prabhupada wanted it. So the three reasons. And in the Western outreach also, there have been different strategies that I've seen. First one, like a book-centered strategy around book. He did various book launches, and that was successful in creating initial awareness. He did a second book also. He did a book launches based on that. Then after that, the whole idea of the Govardhan Eco Village. That was something which Maharaj had been planning for a long time. But then the idea is that when people in the West, they come to, they get introduced to Bhakti, they need to have a soft landing in India. So if people come to many of the places in India which are supposed to be spiritual, it's like so much noise, so much congestion, so much, like one devotee said that I was reading the biography of a Western person who came to India. He said that my senses were never as much exalted in India, exalted anywhere in the world as they were in India. So many people, so much noise, so many smells, so many colors. So, we may think in the West there is so much temptations. That may be true, but here it's not temptation, it's like overwhelming distraction. So every time I come back from the West to India, just 1 month in UK, I came back. The first thing that strikes me is the noise level in India. It's almost you don't realize it when you're not there. In the West, nobody honks. In India, nobody drives without honking. Or very few people do. So Maharaj wanted a place which would be natural, comfortable, and spiritual. So it's like a very good soft landing. And there are many yoga groups who may not be devotees also. They also come there, and it's become a very significant place. So for the Western outreach, one is the book launches in the West. Second is the yoga outreach over there that has happened, and third is creating resources in India. It's interesting. Maharaj was talking to the Radha Gopinath community leaders recently, and one of them told me, it is like there are so many things that are there, but they don't register to us. So he says, why did Prabhupada want to build big temples in India? We could say that Indians are impressed by big temples, and Indians have that kind of religious pride in building big temples, and they would contribute to that. Indians at that time would not contribute to book distribution. Even now they don't contribute so much. Now they do, but not so much. So that was one reason. But he said that Prabhupada wanted temples in India so that they would be on the tourism map of India, and Westerners over there, they would be like hosting places for them. Which is quite a remarkable vision. So now Juhu temple was grand, and it was supposed to be on the tourism map. The Juhu is on the tourism map. Radha Gopinath is also on the tourism map in Mumbai. Anybody who comes from Mumbai, they come and see the temple. So having various things which are attractive. So they're creating that base. So when Maharaj takes one thing up, other things do get it basically neglected. But Maharaj is focusing on one thing, and his mood was that he has built, he has trained the counselors, he has built a community. So devotees can get nourished. even in his absence, and they can be trained and guided, and things can move on. And that's one of the things that the Maharaj may not have done like conscious succession planning. That is also a discussion going on in that moment. But he has actually done that right from the beginning. That he is, in one sense, decentralized the leadership. It's not that like one disciple, like he is the center and everything has to be sanctioned by him. Like some people, when they are the boss, I need to know everything. But there are many things that you don't need to know. But I need to know so that I know that I don't need to know. So sometimes over centralization that person can extend themselves a lot, and that's wonderful. But then people don't grow. People feel suffocated. And that person is not available, then either things don't move at all, or things just move everywhere after. So Maharaj says that he was visionary, and then that's in the communities and devotees are being nourished. So now, last year Maharaj resigned from the GBC, or this year only, resignation was accepted. So Maharaj became a GBC in 1993, when he came back to ISKCON. He became a guru in ISKCON and a GBC. I think around that time only. So Maharaj is the Koranko is a GBC, and several other devotees may also become GBCs now. One of the reasons Radhadesh Prabhu's service is there also in America. Now GBC has that you should go out of your zone and do some service somewhere else. And then you will be actually trained to be a leader for international movement. So Radhadesh Prabhu also become, some other devotees will also soon become GBCs. But Maharaj, at least from what I have talked with, Maharaj is now in the mood of consolidation. That what he has built, he expanded in India, he expanded in the West. Now the focus is more on consolidation, reinforcing what has already been built. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did preaching for 6 years. The last 18 years he was in one place. And the Goswamis would come from Vrindaban, other people could come from other places. And he was entering deeper into the hearts of those who were already following him. So that's what it seems Maharaj's mood is. Maharaj told me that it's become clear to me that my main service is in India, the Radha Gopinath community, the Bhaktivinoda Hospital, and the Eco Village. So, of course, Maharaj was with his father. His father passed away last year, towards the end. So Maharaj would spend a good amount of time with his father, and now that Maharaj's focus is much more on India now. So India will be his base, and from there it seems he'll be going to various places. And so in consolidation, I'll make 2 points and then I'll conclude. You can have a question after that. That Maharaj's general mood right from the beginning was that he will build one place as a model, and others can come and look at that, and then they can adopt it accordingly. So Radha Gopinath community was built like that, and many other. Each place will adapt according to time, place, circumstance. What can be adapted, what can't be adapted. But so now that is one thing which he had done. The consolidation right now, if I, to whatever extent I understand it, it is that Maharaj, he spends a lot of, he gives classes in Radha Gopinath. Now he travels to a few other places also. But his idea is that devotees come to the Eco Village, devotees come to Gopinath temple. And when in the Eco Village, he's also accessible. At least devotees can meet, exchange a few words with him if he's there. So, Maya was once telling me that, not me, he was telling all of us, in that he says that I'm ready to meet anyone who wants to meet, but I just can't. So I just can't meet everyone. But he said that I'm grateful to, he was talking this in Brahmachari ashram, he said I'm grateful to every one of you. That applies not only to Brahmachari, but every one of you who is serving Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. And so right now, the way I see it is that several of our leaders, like Shivram Maharaj is also retired from the GBC. Of course, he's still the authority in his community. Radhanath Maharaj is still the authority in the community. But officially from GBC duties, many of the leaders are resigning now. And they are now, so Maharaj is meeting meeting celebrities, connecting with them through some offices like Gopalpur in India, Jai Shetty in America. So the idea is that what one George Harrison did was remarkable. And there are people who may do like that. But Maharaj is very, uh, you could say, very selfless in that. When some celebrities come to, many celebrities come to Radha Gopinath or to Eco Village, Maharaj meets them one-to-one level. Maharaj says that I will never talk about them in my classes or in my meetings. He says if they want to talk, when they want to talk, they can talk. So the idea is that many of these celebrities, they are very afraid of being used by others. Everybody wants to use that connection. And yes, we can say that Yukta Vairagya, they have their fame, it should be used. But that's what when everybody's trying to do that, then it just feels very utilitarian. And so Maharaj, so it seems Shyam Sundar Prabhu, we know that they have that incident when we wanted some Lakshmi for the temple in London. And Shyam Sundar Prabhu asked George Harrison. George Harrison gave at that time. But it does seem that was the time onwards he started withdrawing himself. And afterwards he was connected, but he was never like very connected. Many reasons. But overall, in his biographies, there was like one phase in his life. He explored various paths. So the Krishna, he also had a Krishna phase in his life. So sometimes now, who will feel used by when, by what we can't see? So we have to be careful. Maharaj is extremely careful about it. But he is talking with, he's connecting with a lot of influential people, and again giving them appreciation of Krishna consciousness. So Maharaj initially he did some events, and he was spoken in the House of Commons, he spoke in companies. But Maharaj said that that takes a lot of toll for me. He says, preparing for the occasion speaking, he says, rather you bring individual people to me, I talk with them. So that's what Maharaj is not so interested in just going to big forums and speaking in big forums. He may go to big forums, or he may have big celebrities coming and talking with him, and he spends time with them. So that way. And then with respect to the community building, that is, I would say, his biggest legacy. Wherever we are. I was in London, so in UK. I went to Scotland for the first time. So there are devotees there also who are inspired by Maharaj. Some of them initiate when they come to Maharaj comes to the manor. So Maharaj basically, he is, one devotee asked me, is Maharaj a liberal or a conservative? So I told him that what I see is Maharaj is a non-disruptor. The overall trend is liberal. He doesn't take, it's an intentionally conservative stance. Where the overall culture is conservative, he doesn't take intentionally liberal stance. His focus is on whatever is the way things are going on, within that, how can people move towards Krishna? So now sometimes you can disrupt and take people towards Krishna also. But in my understanding, that's like a high risk approach. Like, somebody is here and we are here. Till they come to Krishna consciousness means take a high jump from here to here. Mm-hmm. Now, few people succeed, but many, they go lower down. So that somehow doesn't work very well. So this actually, Krishna says, don't do this in 326. Na buddhi bedam jarayed, jnanam karva sanginam. So other ways, basically create steps gradually for people to come to it. So this, in my understanding, is the mood of Maharaj. The people will take gradual steps. and from where they are, they'll come towards Krishna. So whoever is ready to show whatever level of connection, commitment, Maharaj accepts that, and then he engages them accordingly. And different devotees or different well-wishers, they are at different steps in this ladder. But there is a huge amount of outreach happening. And I was talking about monks. I concluded that one. See, one of the things, this is a mm, like I said, 10, 15 years ago, if somebody would become a brahmachari, it's like the whole movement, the whole idea was you are brainwashing young people and you're taking people away. Now that is not there at all. I mean, it's still there to some extent, but that is not the primary perception of our movement. It's like monks are seen as sources of wisdom. I mean, there are 3, 4 monks in India who are quite influential, but I feel that Gaur Gopal Prabhu was the pioneer in that, and it was Maharaj who encouraged him to do that. It was this is one of the things I find very significant on Maharaj. I mentioned this. I'm sure I mentioned the last time also. Maharaj said that in our movement we have many empowered devotees, but we do not have enough leaders to engage empowered devotees. That means empowered devotees means they have both the ability and the desire to do a lot. But if we try to fit them into a particular box or a particular paradigm, it doesn't work. So basically, through people like Gaur Gopal Prabhu, initially it was thought, why is he talking about self-help and mundane things like that? And he's not talking about Krishna at all. Yes, but it was an incremental approach. See, basically, what happens is that everybody needs sattvic wisdom. Now, people they may not know it, they may not know the word sattvic, but everybody needs wisdom for living practically in the world. So, see, even when we call practical application of the Bhagavad Gita, most of practical application of Bhagavad Gita is how to live in this world to get out of the world. Isn't it? It is not how to live better in the world. You see, that is Maya. Well, that's not necessarily Maya. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. But the idea is people are going to need sattvic wisdom. And if we don't give sattvic wisdom, somebody else is going to give it. In the Mormon church, I was in Salt Lake City. So the Mormons are a group of Christians who are considered a bit heterodox. They are not accepted by major Christian denominations, but now they are. They had they accepted many polygamy and things they had accepted. But anyway, Stephen Covey was actually a Mormon, and he, in their tradition, they consider him to the biggest Mormon preacher. Now, among the millions of people who read Seven Habits, most people don't even know that he's a Christian or to become a Mormon. But that was a book which reached millions. And then he has a subsequent book. The Divine Center. That's also quite a big selling book. And the Divine Center is all about not just Jesus, but the Mormon way to Jesus. So it's a step. So lots of people take that first step, and a few people take the next step. So there are others who have done that, Christians who have done that. There are Buddhists who have done that. There's a Buddhist mindfulness. The word mindfulness is also in Buddhism in the West, even in India. But actually, in the mindfulness that they teach, there is very little Buddhism, actually speaking, if you see. But people get an appreciation for Buddhism by that. And then they become very old. Actually, I don't know how much Buddha has become like a culturally cool icon. Laughing Buddha, sleeping Buddha, reclining Buddha. I was in a devotee farm community, and I saw in the outdoor there are more Buddhas than Krishna. And I said, people feel comfortable with Buddha. Not so much with Krishna. So we have to.
Here also I have seen that even with many clients who don't want to call themselves Hindus or anything, who want to show that they are neutral, and keeping Buddha in their altar.
Yeah, true. Altar.
In the altar, there is no deep or anything, but there is Buddha there. Or there's a big Buddha statue or something.
So it's like
to show you're modest and you're neutral and you are open to all
Yeah.
opinions.
It's like your Buddha has become an icon of spiritual but not religious. So the idea is that we have something like this, that it's sattvic to spiritual. So Ganchampriya Prabhuji Ashanti was also a story like that. He was in the ashram, then he left the ashram, and now he, in one sense, his selling point is I was a former monk. So in the past, it was like the way the culture was. If you're brahmachari and you leave brahmachari ashram, it's almost seemed like a fall down. But now it has become a selling point. I was a monk. So things have changed, and to some extent, we are beneficiaries of the change. But to extent, I would say that we are pioneers of the change also. So overall, see, this is what if we consider it's like a tamas, rajas, sattva, then we can say bhakti, or we can say Shuddha Bhakti, and then we have Gaudiya Vaishnava Bhakti. So, so now we can Shuddha Bhakti can have various places also. There can be devotees of Narayan who are also devotees of Ram, also Shuddha Bhaktas. But specifically in the mood of Radharani, in separation from Krishna. So, what is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement? So, many devotees feel that, or at least some devotees, you could say, feel that we have to get everyone over here. So, they can be anywhere, they can be from anywhere they come, but we have to take people all the way. And to some extent, that is true. But getting people from here to here, getting people from here to here, getting people from here to here, that is also a possible result. And that is also a desirable result. See, the first purpose of ISKCON, he says, to correct the imbalance of material and spiritual values in society. In fact, in the various purposes of ISKCON, Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only mentioned one purpose each: to build a temple for Krishna and to do Harinam Kirtan, as taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So many of the purposes are quite broad. So it could very well be that for some devotees, their primary service is to get people from Rajas or Tamas to Sattva. And now those same devotees may take somebody from Sattva to Shuddha Sattva. Some devotees may not. And some devotees, their primary service may be to take people from Sattva towards Shuddha Sattva and towards Bhakti and Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So overall, in the past, even I would say till 2015 or definitely till 2019, this was the main vision. Now it has become more or less clear that the different devotees will do different things, and more or less we have come to. There is still criticism of devotees and this is right, this is wrong, but that has toned down because the effects are being seen. One of the things that radical change that has happened in the last 10 years or 15 years is not just monks, but ISKCON has also become a respected brand. Many people appreciate ISKCON. Many companies want to associate with ISKCON, and we have CSR and other things. So that is because we are also doing this kind of outreach, which people can appreciate. So it's like if we consider in our stages of bhakti, there's Shraddha, and after that Sadhu Sangha, then we have Bhajana Kriya.
Anardhani Buddhi,
We have Anardhani Buddhi.
Nishtha.
And then we have Nishtha, and then all that goes on to Ruchi and Asakti and Prema. So we have. So now if you consider most of the classes that we had are focused on this area. Bhajana Kriya and Anardhani Buddhi. Now, for many devotees, their service will be just getting people to Shraddha. And that is important. Now, it's also important that we have some people who talk about, now we don't say that we are on the stage of Ruchi and Bhava and Prema, but we also need nourishment in that direction. If we don't do that, And it's happening that many devotees in our movement who have been around for 10, 15 years, now they are going to Gaudiya Math and other places to hear more about Krishna. Why? Because they say that we don't speak much about Krishna. Now our acharyas are there, they have written about Krishna. But if we don't speak about it, the devotees have that need. Yes, everybody needs anartha nivritti. But we also need artha pravritti, which comes by hearing directly about Krishna. So, what we had done last time, we had discussed the Gopi Geeta.
Yeah.
So that is more for nourishing specifically our attraction towards Krishna. So it's a whole pathway. Now, maximum people will actually be needing the journey towards Shraddha only. So it is not necessary that every preacher has to take every single person all the way. Some devotees may focus only on building Shraddha. Some devotees may focus only on, say, Bhajana Kriya, how to practice. Some devotees may focus on Anartha Nivritti. And some devotees may choose to focus only on the subsequent, like say, Ruchi and Bhava and Prema. So basically, if you consider these stages not just as distinct stages, they are distinct, but they are also overlapping to some extent. It is not that if we are not done Anartha Nivritti, there is no Ruchi at all. There is no Asakti. Some Asakti is there. It may not be very strong or very deep, but it is there. So different devotees will nourish different people in different ways. So that breadth of vision that Maharaj had, I would say, that has played a significant role in accommodating different devotees. So Govind is focusing more on the outreach of dharma. So where we feel there's so much adharma in the world today, and just some people come to bhakti, but some people just come to dharma more. That's also valuable. It's important. So that breadth of vision. See, we talk a lot about depth in Krishna consciousness, but as much as depth is important, breadth is also important. So Maharaj is very deep in his Krishna consciousness, and because he is deep, he can also be broad. So that he appreciates devotees doing endeavors in many different ways, and someone makes some mistakes, they learn from the mistakes and they grow. So he is not so much focused on, you could say, catching people when they make mistakes. Lets people learn and grow from the mistakes. And that way, a lot of talented, dedicated devotees, people become devotees and they continue serving. And right now, through especially the eco-village projects like that, so many people who would previously not even consider Krishna consciousness, not only they're considering it, but they are exploring it, they're connecting with it at various degrees. And we have the capacity to accommodate people at various levels. So it's like, so I said, Maharaj is not so much liberal or conservative, he's a non-disruptor. Non-disruptor means if somebody has an inclination to serve Krishna in a particular way, and somebody is moving toward Krishna in that particular way. They may not be moving very fast, they may not be going all the way, but it is, I'll conclude this one of Maharaj's was telling me, sometimes we are so anxious that people go to Krishna in the next life that we are unable to keep people with Krishna in this life. That is what happens. We push people so much, you don't want to take birth again. What devotee told me, I feel maybe I should not have taken birth this time also. That's one very articulate, you could say semi-devotee. He was born in a devotee family. He was in a Gurukul. So he told me that he said my prominent memory, he's a young man now. He says, my prominent childhood memory is my parents' constant disappointment that I was not the reincarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. Now, every parent will have great expectations and hope from their children. And we want them to go back to God also. But they have to live this life also. And in trying to push them forward, we push them so much that they go away from Krishna. So yes, we all need to push people. But how much? It is Phalena Parijayate. Is that pushing actually taking people towards Krishna, or is it pushing taking people away from Krishna? So that mood of the what Mamu Vartamanu Vartante Manushya Partha Sarvasha. So this is the Maharaj embodies this mood. I had written this separately long ago, but from your place, at your pace, access Krishna's grace. From your place, at your pace, access Krishna's grace. So Maharaj has created different places for devotees, and at different places there are many, many people moving towards Krishna. So I'll summarize what I discussed. We discussed mainly the broad phases. So I would say the pre-bhakti phase or pre-manifest bhakti phase, we can say. That is when he was seeking that idea of non-sectarian. That means not being self-congratulatory. We are so good. Why are you laughing out the
That's a
word?
very strong statement.
We won't be able to congratulate anyone.
What do you mean?
I mean, we won't be able to congratulate anyone after this.
No, it's more about congratulating ourselves.
Brother, very accurately apt phrase that you chose to say that.
In asking that question, I was being self-congratulatory. Then as a pujari, Radhadesh Maharaj told that bhajanananda, bhajanananda. That is, so that's why even when he got involved in so many things later, his connection with Krishna is very strong. Then as a youth preacher, I said that's the time in his focus on what do you say, like working, you could say, almost working with whatever resources. If nothing is available, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, that's what he focused on at one point. Just do with what you have, keep doing what you have. Then I would say the community building phase, that is the biggest. We discussed that with elaborately also. That was from around 87 to 2004, 2005. This is basically where we provide, we remove the walls and we build the bridges. So what is required? What is obstruct? Instead of just giving lectures, become Krishna conscious. We investigate what is it that is making things difficult for people. Then was Western outreach, where we discussed how, because so he used his book, became like a book that he was told became a launching pad for him for doing something that was very necessary. The last part I discussed was consolidation. No? So in consolidation, the idea is that you engage devotees, engage people from whatever level they are at, from their place at their place. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Any questions?
Prabhuji, I have a question. So, if we are a non-disruptive Prabhuji, sometimes.
No, I don't necessarily say that all of us necessarily following Maharaj have to be non-disruptors. We'll have our natures.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, let me say like this: in a non-disruptor kind of a mode, can we criticize what is happening? Because sometimes it is part of preaching. That,
Of course, I would say not that. See, in one sense, any kind of education involves some correction. This is how you think, and this is what you're thinking is wrong, this is what is right. So, I don't think criticism itself is a problem. It's how the criticism is done. It's done in a way that people are not publicly shamed. It's not done in a way that it comes off to the others as an ego trip from our side. It does not come off in a way that it's self-congratulatory. So I think a lot of nobody can actually lead a community without needing to correct people. Otherwise, everybody will go in their own directions. Certainly, corrections are required, but it's more about how it is done. Okay, actually, it's very nice. I was supposed to tell this about. It's a simple example, but say now a lot of young people have started coming to our temples. I don't know if you notice it. These young people, sometimes it's like, and they may have a boy and a girl, boyfriend, girlfriend. They'll come together, but they'll come to the temple. And nowadays, the cool thing is to take a selfie. So wherever they are. So at Radhadesh temple, what happened was, many times young people take selfie with the deities. Now, turning our back toward the deities is not a good thing. So the devotees asked that Maharaj, should we stop that? Maharaj said that yes, turning our back to the deities is not good. But he said if we make a rule and we stop people, then we can't control who will stop people. No, how don't do this? No, you are coming in aparat. There's so many we can speak in so many. And see what happens is, for many people, rules are their virtuous excuse for going on a ego trip.
Yes.
Rules are a virtuous excuse for exercising power, even abusing power. I'm only implementing the rule. So Maharaj said that don't do that. So it's like that sensitivity that yes, there are certain things which are not good, but if some people they feel that they were treated rudely, and it's quite possible. We cannot control who is going to be the temple, who is going to speak out of the temple. If people feel that rudely, they will never come to the temple. Now, which is better or which is worse? That they turn their back toward the deity, or they turn their back to the deity for a few minutes when they come to a temple, or they permanently turn their back to the deity, never come to the temple. So, in that sense, we have to correct, but when do we do it? How do we do it? That is the key thing, my understanding.
Is there only in Radha Gopinath, because in other temples we still have no selfie?
No, my understanding is that selfies are not to be taken. That maybe notice might be there, but it's like how much do you enforce it?
Here in the temple, the security guard is snatching away the mobiles and people are getting afraid. Think the mobiles are gone. I mean, they're pretty rude and.
Yeah, so it's more like it's more like enforcing, more of enforcing something. So
They could probably offer to take the picture themselves. So this last time, like the butt were getting close, and there were some people trying to take a selfie, and God was in the background. I said, "Don't take a selfie." They said, "No, God, deities didn't come." I said, "It's not about deities coming. You are turning your back towards God." So yeah, so people don't even realize that they're turning their back towards deities while taking selfie. It's not. Then they realize, yes, we're turning our back. We said, thank you so much.
yeah, I was at temple. Where was it? In Canada. That was quite clever. In the temple hall, they have created a selfie spot. It's basically like
Even in Ayodhya Ram Mandir, they have created a selfie spot.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, photo booths, many things.
Yeah, so it's like basically like a very beautiful background, and not the deities. So the deities and the pictures are like a very beautiful background, and you go there and you take a selfie over there. So,
That's a good thing.
yeah.
Because that's a trend now. I think it should be.
Yeah, it's actually very nice that people are not young people are not ashamed of going to a temple. They want to share it because I went to a temple. And it's nice, even those their friends who don't come to a temple, they get to see the deities, which is also a good thing. So it's like which rules are small and which rules are big. That is, Prabhupada says intelligence means to see things in their proper perspective. So a few years ago there was this debate that if we make Mahaprasad, we make Mahaprasad packets, should we put pictures of the deities on those? Because after the people take the prasad, people will throw away the packet, and then their foot may be on fall on that. So what do we do? So general consensus was that Krishna is merciful, so we can put pictures of Krishna, but better not put pictures of the deities. So we can have some picture of Krishna on the prasad packet, and that way people get to see Krishna also. But then there's a difference between the picture of Krishna and the deity of Krishna. So that's something.
Hare Krishna. So I think it's
The question, like when we get the calendars or temple calendars, so those are getting piled up every year. So what should we do after the previous calendars?
ask Subara bro. He did so.
You don't see.
Can we make a photo frame
photo frame and give it.
Give it collage, huh? Okay, give it a photo frame. That's a good idea.
Give it to gift as a gift.
Corporate gifts
Usually
we
we
give.
cut them and then we make a photograph it, and whenever some guest comes or whenever you are going to birthdays or your relatives, just give that as a gift. We make photo frames of those calendars and then we give it.
That's a creative idea.
Everybody who takes the Bhagavatam set gets one.
Oh, okay.
Great.
Superaproved as a collection of photographs.
Oh, okay.
Question. And
You had a question, Manu? The mic there.
Hare Krishna,
Who takes the
Prabhuji.
Bhagavatam set?
Yeah, so earlier we mentioned about material means lacking in spiritual and also pointing towards spiritual or preparing towards spiritual. So I didn't understand how material can prepare one for spiritual level.
Okay, so I was giving that example. If somebody has, by their past upbringing, come towards sattva, you can say sattva there is no bhakti, and therefore it is lacking in spiritual. But sattva is a better preparing ground, launching pad for spiritual than is rajas or tamas, isn't it? So in that sense, it is good. So like somebody maybe may have studied a lot and they have got many degrees. Now we could say all this is avidya, it's all sign, it's all ignorance. Okay, that may be true at one level because they know knowledge of Krishna. But maybe that knowledge they can use in Krishna's service afterwards. In acquiring that knowledge, they have developed certain discipline, certain dedication that they can use in Krishna's service. So like even that meat eating example, the religious Pope was eating meat. You can see this is lacking, or we can see that, okay, in spite of eating meat, this person is a religious head and he is inspiring people to move towards God. The same situation can be seen in two different ways. So, and both are valid ways of looking. It just depends on the context. In the whole concept of vibhuti, in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is how the material is pointing towards the spiritual. So depending on what is anukul for whom, it depends on that how one can connect with Krishna, or how one can help someone else connect with Krishna. Some people need to be told that what they have, that's not enough, you need to connect with Krishna. Some people need to be appreciated for what they have, and then they themselves connect with Krishna. So it depends. So when Prabhupada met George Harrison, the Prabhupada appreciated that he was singing about Krishna, and he was already interested in Hare Krishna. The Prabhupada said, sing more about it. And Prabhupada met Ambarish Prabhu, but he was known as a celebrity. Alfred Ford, he's not a celebrity, but he was still a very wealthy person. The first thing Prabhupada said, so you are the great grandson of Henry Ford, where is he now? So Ambarish Prabhu says that, tells the pastor manager that Prabhupada was not flattering me. So Prabhupada saying that, okay, he had so much wealth, where is he gone now? His wealth is temporary. So he actually appreciated Prabhupada for being that candid. So where is he now? So it depends. Both approaches can be used.
In fact, the more qualifications one has, it is a plus point for us to say also that such and such person is actually engaged in this department.
Yes,
Like
that
so
is
many
true.
scientists have written, like you are, so many of you have done from prestigious institutions engineering, and that's what we flattered, right, in your introduction.
Yeah, so it's the idea is that if somebody, it's almost like the material gets value after he becomes spiritual.
Exactly. For the material people to understand.
But see, examples have their contextual value. Like the zeros of zeros, and when you add 1 to it, it becomes value. And that from a paramarthic perspective is true. But from a vyavaharik perspective, you can't call all of them as simply zeros. Especially with respect to parenting. After being in the West, in Indians, even if they are not spiritual, Indians are very serious about parenting. They may be in Rajoguna completely. They don't even want the children to do anything spiritual, go to temple, do anything. But they may just want the children to succeed and become famous and wealthy and all that. But if a child falls sick, they'll move heaven and earth to take care of their child. Now there could be tamasic parents who are just stoned on drugs and they don't even know that I have a child. And there are people like that, unfortunately. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur also says that actually there is a significant difference between Rajas and Tamas. He says Rajas can be an antidote for the poison of Tamas. Now, of course, Rajas can also be a poison. I need to go beyond that. But it depends on context. Okay? So thank you very much. So let's Radhanath Swami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Preman.
Extra.